So as the saying goes, if wishes were horses, there would be manure everywhere. You wouldn't be able to walk around outside without getting your feet all disgusting. Would probably end up having little antechambers into our houses where, you know, there'd just be sort of like an open shower with like a drain in the bottom and then like this hose that you'd use to just wash down your feet. It would be disgusting. I have a bit of an issue in that a lot of the stuff that I've been thinking and talking about recently I think is really important, but it is crippled by being part of sort of self-help. Because I think there's a big need for the study of, I don't know, lifestyle design, and it kind of spans across multiple things, you know, whether it's dealing with working too much, or whether it's figuring out how to do your finances, or how to adult channel type stuff, or even just dealing with kind of depression and you know, physical fitness and nutrition and all of that sort of stuff that is sort of often is considered secondary to the real field that we are in. You don't get a degree in living a rich life. You get a degree in philosophy or psychology or business, and we have you know, great amount of resources for a lot of these things. If you want to be a writer, there are courses, there are books that talk about it, there are blogs to read. If you want to do film, same thing, lots of tutorial videos, lots of content. We treat these things as sciences for which there's a need for great, important educational content. But when it comes to questions of what is your life's purpose or how are you going to be happy, then we sort of clam up. And I think part of it is because the field of self-help and life hacks is really, really weak. There are plenty of texts, The Secret, and numerous other things. I mean, if you read self-help, it's really, really hit or miss. A lot of it can be just, you know, if you want to achieve your goals, you just have to want it more than anybody else. Buy my book. And I feel like for myself, a lot of the videos that I've been making have been leaning toward that lifestyle side of content. And so it's important to kind of address what exactly are the things that are screwing up those genres. And I think a lot of it comes down to the way that we process information and how we receive a bit of knowledge and how we evaluate it. There are things that we gain from personal experience. You know that if I drop a hammer on your foot, it's going to hurt because you have had things dropped on you in the past and you know that from experience. And generally speaking, this is probably the most trustworthy type of information from our own perspective, things that we can know by our own experience. But we can also accept information and verify it based on pulling bits of information from our own experience. If I say that when someone drops an anvil on your foot, it hurts, most of you probably haven't experienced that. But you know that anvils are heavy, and you know the heavy things on your feet hurt, and so you're likely to say, that's probably a trustworthy assumption. And this kind of extends out. If I were to say to you that 2 + 2 = 4, you can go, okay, well I know what 2 is, and I know how addition works, so I'm going to take that and I'm going to verify it, and yeah, it seems right. So I'm going to go ahead and trust that bit of information. So let's extend it out and take a harder thing. The reason that the sky is blue is because the atmosphere actually reflects the natural color of the oceans. Is that true? In all likelihood, this is something that you can't just verify by checking with the information you already trust, because probably very few of us have a full and complete understanding of the physics of light waves. As it turns out, that's not actually true. That's not why the sky is blue. But I know that when I was a kid, that was something that I was told, and it was something that I took into my working understanding of how the universe worked. In that case, the reason that I had trusted that information was based on the trust and reputation of the people who had told it to me, who was probably my parents, and in their defense, they probably didn't know that it was wrong either. So man, trusting information based on inherent trust of the source is a little risky. Maybe we should just never ever do that. But hang on a second. If we don't, if we say that we're only going to accept information as fact if it's something that we can directly experience or derive at through things that we've directly experienced, I've got a question for you. Is the Earth round? Is it a sphere? Can you answer that without referencing to stuff that you accept based on outside authority? I can't. I can think of how I might verify that information. I could sail around the globe. It might take me a month or two, but even then, you know, who's to say that my crewmates might not change course while I'm asleep and mess with the GPS so I can't be certain? Well, and even then, I can't really trust that GPS is reliable because that's not information that I know. I don't know how it works. what I could do is probably take, you know, maybe if I were to stay up for like long periods of time and sail just from Peru to Spain, and then try and stay up for that entire journey, try and find the shortest distances between land masses, things that I could know are stable, and then not sleep that entire time, and then slowly, piece by piece, verify that each of those segments are true until I make it all the way around. Now that would be the height of stupidity. It's much easier for me to just go, people have said the Earth is round, GPS stuff seems to verify it, science seems to verify it, the fact that we have different time zones seems to verify it. There are a lot of heuristics that I can take that seem to point to that direction. But still, I'm basing that assumption based on authority, and I think all of us, when we go through our day-to-day, have to accept received information and, to a large extent, trust a lot of it. And self-help and life hacks seem to fall into that category of received information. It's not stuff that we derive out from personal experience, but we're trusting other people. We look at, you know, John Green will do a Mental Floss episode, you know, debunking or failing to debunk life hacks. And we trust that, okay, well, given that, you know, he filmed it, we're assuming there's no CGI, we're assuming that John is a relatively trustworthy person, we're assuming that his opinion of it is valid, and maybe we can go ahead and adopt that for ourselves. But if someone were to say to you, you need to wish for the things that you're searching for harder than anyone else, and then you just need to leave it in the hands of the great and all-powerful magic world to solve all of your problems, then it gets a little risky. Because that's received information, but the heuristics for determining whether or not it's trustworthy are a bit challenging. When we see some professor perform a study and we're physically there and we can see the results and we can verify it for ourselves, we can generally sort of trust it, with the proviso that, you know, we can always try and reproduce the study. If we read, you know, their primary paper, we can think, okay, well, you know, are there steps to reproduce this? Is this something that I could check for myself? And we know that a lot of times in the field of academia, if you have the possibility of disproving someone, you will go for it. So if no one has, we can make a reasonable assumption that it might be somewhat valid. But if we read a press release from the university about that study, we've got to take our trust down a little bit, because we don't have a lot of that information. We don't have the raw data, we don't have the steps to reproduce the thing, we just know that they say they have it, and that it points to this particular thing. And maybe it's true, maybe it isn't. It's likely it's probably true. And then if we read an article that was written based on the press release about a study, who knows? Maybe wine is good for us, maybe wine is bad for us, maybe eggs are good, maybe we need more carbs, maybe we need less. I don't know. Because there's no way for me to actually trust that information. Self-help kind of becomes worst of all, because you take that premise of if you wish harder than everyone, you will achieve your goal. It's entirely possible. It'd be really difficult to test that, though. Because, you know, let's say you get a sample of 5 people and you say, okay, one of you has to wish harder than all 4. How do you know? You don't. You don't. Maybe there's someone in Nigeria wishing really hard for something else and they've completely screwed up your data. There's no way to verify this information. And so I think when people say things like that, we have to say, this isn't trustworthy, this isn't reproducible, this isn't something that I can apply myself and just see what the result is. I have to say that none of this is valid. I can't adopt any of this. So what do? I mean, we still have this great need of information in the field of sort of lifestyle design. I think we have to kind of set up some ground rules, and that is, wherever possible, we need to point to studies or fields that seem to support the assertions that we're making. And wherever it's not possible, we have to be very careful in the words that we use. We need to say things like, you know, this strategy worked for me. Here are the steps that you can take to try it. And give people the option of testing out whether it works for them, because otherwise it is the height of arrogance to assume that anyone should take you seriously. So at least for myself, I'm going to try really hard to either cite sources for things if I'm ever making recommendations, or at the very least to say, you know, here's some strategies that you might try, and couch and say, I don't know, but they seem to be effective for me, maybe they'll be effective for you, because I really don't want to be the type of person that simply expects you to blindly trust whatever it is that I'm saying. Because honestly, none of us deserve blind trust.